All right, we're taking a momentary pause from all the planner releases and launches. Releases, launches, that's the same thing. All right, anywho, you know that's totally my jam, but we're gonna take a pause and we're gonna go ahead and let you in on my little hidden gem. It's not really that hidden, but this is Denison Algebra. I have the Pre-Algebra course, which I am doing with my 8th grader. That's going to be an 8th grader as of July 1st, but we started this a bit early. And they also offer all the high school maths, or a few of them. So we'll talk all about that. If you've had a child that has learning disability or struggles or has some serious math trauma, take a look at this, because this may be the answer for you too. So stick around.
Till you look at me and see that I'm the type of girl you're not really that used to. Even when I'm broken.
Welcome back, friends. If you're brand new to my channel, my name is Arlene with Arlene & Company. As I said before, we're going to deep dive into Denison Algebra. I have the Pre-Algebra course here, but we will be discussing the other courses that they also offer and where to find the samples. So if you want to go ahead and try it after this review and flip through and walk through, whatever it may be, know that I will do an updated review as I do like updates, homeschool updates, and then end of year review. Yes, we have started. Yes, we have more than enough lessons under our belt that I can offer an honest opinion on how this is going and how I feel it's going to work and who I would recommend to look into this based on me. However weight you take that on. All right, so I also will be discussing why we went this direction and why we switched gears and the reason behind that, and what students I feel that would benefit from a program like this and which ones may not. Okay, and again, these are just my opinions. All right, so if you have a child that struggles, has math trauma, learning disabilities, and things like that, stick around, friends, because this may be something that speaks not only to your child, but to you. So what you get, for example, this is the Pre-Algebra course. There is a video lesson element. So don't be scared, all right? If you're like, okay, wait, I can't teach high school math. I can't teach upper level math. Hold up, Mr. Dennison does it for you. All right, so you're there in the support role, obviously. So you have a parent guide and test booklet. The tests, they have a pre-test in here, and then the actual tests are in here that you can go ahead and give to your child as they're prompted. They will be prompted in the student text when to ask their parents for a test if you're not working with them one-on-one on every single lesson or being there. I can tell you I'm not. Mr. Dennison takes care of it. I check in with her. I have her show me what she worked on every single day, because my wholehearted belief is if you do anything online, anything directed by somebody else, is to have frequent check-ins. You don't want to be surprised and be like, okay, your child just is, you know, Christmas treeing it, or if there's multiple choice, it's not multiple choice. But you know what I mean? It's like you don't want to wait, especially like things like teaching textbook. And I said this every single time. I still highly recommend this program for the right family and the right student, but you have to check in with your child and check in with them frequently of what they're learning and making sure it translates to other types of living math and things like that. So you know that they are actually retaining the information in the style that is being presented to them. So as we were looking into upper level math, I had this mama gut that's told me that she was gonna need different kinds of support and additional support for the high school maths and beyond. Now, she could have done algebra in 8th grade. She could have. And, you know, probably gone a little bit slower where she could have. However, I felt that she would benefit, and you guys know I am not about trying to rush the process. I thought that with Pre-Algebra, you're going to review everything that you've learned to this point, and then introducing those algebraic expressions and things like that along with a course. So it's, you know, given into like bite size and building. So once you hit Algebra 1, it's all very familiar to you, and then you're just going into a very much deeper level. Now, you have, again, the parent guide and the test booklet. You have the student text, as you can see, is nice and chunky. So when they're watching the videos and they're doing problem sets and together, and then he gives them assignment to go ahead and complete on their own, they're looking at the same material. So what's on screen, it's what they physically have. And with the child that has different learning abilities and learning needs, like my child, that is gold. To have the physical material while she's watching the lesson, it's like equivalent to being in a classroom setting, but still having that individualized one-on-one education platform, right? So then you have the solution manual. Now the solution manual, this is something that also really appealed to me, was that this solution manual that you see how everything is worked out so you can check your answers, it's also in video form. So your child can opt to go ahead and check their own work by looking at the solution manual and checking their answers, to watch the videos of the problems being worked out and showing the answers that are in here. So if your child feels pretty confident that they can understand how they arrived to the answer on here, if they got it wrong, then they can just stick to the student manual, the solution manual. If not, they're still stuck and have no idea how they got to it, and you're just not able to explain it either, they can just watch the videos and watch the solutions being worked out. So I think that is very, very important, especially at this stage in the game, to be able to have that additional support. So I am going to start here with the student textbook and then show you how I'm going to work a little bit backwards, because usually I start with the parent guide and then the student textbook, but I feel like it would make more sense in this instance to show you the student textbook. All right, so let's go do that. All right, so there's the standard. And in the standard edition, it's going to follow your typical scope. They're going to learn what they need to know even to take the SATs. Now, they do recommend, even if you're using the standards, they highly recommend, if your child is needing to take the SATs, ACT or whatever, the SATs, to go ahead and take an SAT prep course. And that's like routinely recommended. So even though they are gonna learn in this standard edition, they are going to learn what they need to know to do well in their SATs, they do recommend you take a prep course. Now their success edition, so you will see the same topic, so whether it's algebra 1, algebra 2, whatever, you'll see the same topic in this cover, and then one that says success. The one that says success is for your children that have profound learning disabilities or profound delays in their academic journey and things like that, for whatever reason it may be. Maybe you want to do pre-algebra really early. I remember I took pre-algebra probably in 6th grade, and I took a high school algebra 1 in 8th grade and got a credit for it after passing the credit by exam. However, that's for certain kiddos and not for others. So you decide where you want to be. So it's going to be a resources. You're going to have a course overview, the BHAC sheets. I'll show you what that is, and the Dennison method. I absolutely love how these are taught. You have that video element. Because of the video element, they're watching what you're doing and having it on hand at the same time. And the way he teaches is not too slow, but it's not fast either. So it's great with the repetition and how it continues on through. So I'm not going to read every single little thing here, but just so you can see this stuff also in samples. You have chapter 1 of whole numbers, integers, decimals, fractions, strengthening the skills. You have variables, exponents, solving equations, and the exponent stuff, that is started way back here as well, but it's like, really full on over there. So yeah, exponents and negative numbers, integers and things like that. Anyway, so even though you see these categories, know that they're also like introduced in another concept elsewhere. So exponents, solving equations, solving equation part 2. And then again, you're doing like all the algebraic things, solving equations with fractions and decimals, distributive property, combining like terms, word problems, translating words, word problem, rating constants, solving inequalities, inequalities in graphing the number line, solving inequalities, flipping symbol rule, graphing. So you're going to do all the graphing and things like that, which is great as you develop forward. Ratio and proportions and percents, geometry concepts, which is also, you'll see it elsewhere, probability and statistics, and then you have a final exam. So you're seeing 15 chapters, but this definitely does take a school year, because each chapter has, like, for example, there was 9 lessons in chapter 1. And on top of that, the review test, practice test, and then you had a test. So that's an additional like day there as well. So my child is able to do a complete lesson. So like, let's say lesson 1.2 in one sitting. So she does an entire, like, watches the video with the lesson, does the problems with Mr. Dennison, does all that stuff. And then she does the problems that is assigned to her from that day. So here is the overview of the chapters. The basics, and this is where you're reviewing all these concepts that you learned before while introducing some algebraic equations, right? Then algebra, and then you have 3 chapters here with the ratio and proportions and percent, geometry, probability, and statistics. All right, so you have that there. Here is your BHAC sheets. I believe he pronounces it or something on there, but I haven't heard it yet. So it's Big Hairy Algebra Concepts. So this is a cheat sheet basically, right? And they can have this for each of their units. So you see this one says chapter 1, so adding numbers. So if they forget, like, basically the formula or they're a little cheat sheet of how to solve the problem, they will have one of these for the chapter and that they can go over. So Big Hairy Algebra Concepts. And then here is like their cheat sheet for orders of operations, and they learn the PEMDA mnemonic as well. But they have it all here, so you can see that and refer back to it, which I think is pretty cool that they offer that. Again, this is something that you see repeated, so it's supporting a child that math has not been their jam for whatever reason it may be. Now let's say your child is like good with math and stuff, like super advanced, then that's when I would recommend, like, you know, stuff like art of problem solving and things like that, and their math courses that is geared for gifted. So anyways, these are the Big Hairy Algebra Concept cheat sheets, and you have them for every single chapter. The first lesson, which was introduction, basically took the time to introduce a child to their new teacher, to what they're learning. But not only that, but he took the time to acknowledge any math trauma, to acknowledge the fact that they may felt like, you know, they're not good at this, to acknowledge those and to say, let's let it go and give me a chance to get you through this. I thought that was beautiful. I thought it was awesome that a math program took the time to say these things and to help your child believe it before they even started their first lesson. So I thought that was pretty rad. The positive sign that you see here is a brain positive. So I know it may look like something else, but it means brain positive. Say positive things about yourself. The brain learns better that way. So this is the Dennison method. It's 7 habits that they teach. Remind often, every day, not more than once. So they don't want you to double up and do like a bunch of lessons in one day. Copy the pros, work problems exactly as shown in the video. So they don't want you to really deviate from the method, because these methods are gonna build on with them as they go into Algebra 1, as they go into geometry, as they go into Algebra 2, and so on, whatever. So these things, they want to establish these habits, so they are showing their work, they are honing in their skills by doing it exactly as taught. All right, so that is also part of the Dennison method. Don't cut corners. Don't try to take any shortcuts in learning. Do everything that is asked of you. Pause button. So pause, look at what they're doing, revisit what they're doing and stuff like that as you're watching. You know, so pause is your friend, and then check your answers. So they are encouraged to check their own answers. My daughter, I trust her, and I can see that she worked out the problem and she's not just copying over an answer or anything like that. So they are encouraged to check their answers. And to care and then check their work, but then you also can check their answers in the solution manual. So carefully check all answers immediately after you finish them, and that way they can revisit anything that did not work for them or that they didn't understand what they were doing. In this chapter, they review and relearn previous concepts that they're going to need for algebra. So it's going to start very basic, which is always good when you're starting a harder math, that they're going to have time to, like, you know, just hone in perfect little simple concept. So what is math? So we're talking about, like, what is math as a whole. Then you have these little characters throughout and some surprise ones that they get used to, which my daughter really likes them. And then again, here's a copy of their Dennison method. So obviously this is just a very simple thing just to understand the concept of what math is, and then what they need to do to be successful at it with having certain habits. All right. And this was just like a true or false. This was part of their intro class. It was like a welcome, you know, to math class type of thing. So I love how when they have these pages that they're trying to keep everything on the same side, they will stick in a doodle page, and that was my daughter. She's my artist, obviously, and so she loves that there's some random doodle pages. She never knows when they're coming, but when they need to keep the book in the same side, they do this. So this was all part of the introduction of type of lesson, right? And then they went into the first lesson. So the way that the first lesson goes, this part they have that they're doing with the teacher, right? And then they are assigned some problems, right? And then you got the little characters that say some little things and stuff like that. So some of this work is going, what you're seeing is done with the teacher on the screen. So here they're talking about numbers and operations, and then they have the little breakdown. There's no crazy colors. The pages are not busy, so it's not distracting, is simple to the core, even if they have this little tidbits on here. And then they have these little clues and things that they are trying to remember. Addition is cumulative. You know, FY, if you can switch an adding problem around and still get, you still get the same answer. Reminding them these simple concepts that especially kids that have a lot of gaps or have struggled may have missed some marks, okay? And then adding bigger numbers, talking about stacking. You don't have to go left to right when adding. You can add a group of numbers in any order you want. You can pick an order that makes it easy to add if you like, and so on. So, and that is when they're looking at numbers this horizontally and things like that. So it's I'm teaching them like tips and tricks, but not overwhelming them with that. And then what they do is, this is the assignment. So you see, this was a lesson that you did with the teacher in the video, and I don't want to click on any lessons that she hasn't done, so I'll just show you a little clip of this, of how it shows it. And then here's the assignment. So the video ends and says, okay, now do your assignment, and then they work out their problems here. So this was very simple for her, right? So that was great. And then they go into the next lesson. So then in the next lesson, you know, and then there's just always these little fun facts too, and then going in order, mixing numbers around. So then you also see, like, they will show the concepts in all its forms. So multiplication with a dot, multiplication with a parentheses, multiplication with two parentheses. They will see it in all the different forms, which I feel is very, very important with a math program, that they show it in every single way that it can show up in math. And this is especially important as they go into algebra. All right, so you see the regular sign, a dot, a parentheses, and all that stuff. Small, medium, large multiplication problems, and then giving them some skills to build on that. And then again, they have this here, and let me show you. You see right here, and this is the stage my kiddos have not used a calculator up to this point. It will show you, like, specifically you can use a calculator in this instance, and because they're going to need to use a calculator and hone those skills, and it will tell them, and I'll show you in the parent guide, which calculator they recommend. So not from your phone or anything like that, but an actual, you know, scientific calculator. But it will tell them a symbol with it crossed off if you are meant to do it as mental math, or to do it without a calculator. And unless it has a calculator, they are to work out the problem too. But it specifically, it will have the marked off, crossed off, like they definitely don't want you to use a calculator for that. And then they go on from there. And then you're going to see how it's building on. You saw how you were introducing those concepts of those early concepts of mathematics, and how the problems are going to get longer. So now you see these simple things, but it's because they are introducing that algebraic equation slowly until they get to that point. This is still chapter 1, but when they're combining all this thing, now when they see an algebra problem, it's like, oh, this is not that bad. That's fine. And then here, for example, you have exponents. And again, this is the lesson. And then here is a clue. Super common mistake is 7 to the second power is not 7 times 2. And then reminding them of this. But here is the lesson of how they're taught, like the snippets. But I feel like the videos are very, very important, so I wouldn't skip those. And then let's see. Normally I don't show her work, but since this is not like writing, because my child is dyslexic, and she's come leaps and bounds. So unless she tells me, I don't show her work, but with math, you're just seeing numbers. So, all right. Again, this is dividing whole numbers. I'm just giving you an example of the first chapter as you build up, and then we're going to go in towards the middle. All right. And then dividing whole numbers and such. And then, then you review from your notes. So these are like your notes that you're doing with him. And then here we go, order of operations. And then that's explained, and cute little cartoons throughout and stuff like that. And then, following it along. So please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Do you remember that? Because I do. Might switch, and things like that. And this things to memorize and how the problem works. So you can see the method of what they use, how it is taught, and then go from there. So if you check your answers using the solution manual and you still don't understand how to work a problem, you can use the solution video. So this is where they're reminded to watch Mr. Dennison work out the problem, intro into the solving equations, right? And talking about math as an expression, as in a sentence. And then this is what they do together. And then here is the assignment. And then again, we're into like almost a halfway point, so you can see where it's building up. So this, when they see it in algebra in longer expressions, is not as practice test. Passing equals missed 3 or less. So obviously, if they did not pass, then you can review and things like that. Show all work to receive practice test. You give an actual test. Right? So they have ample opportunity to build. That was a student test. This is the parent guide and test booklet. So on here, you're going to have a little bit of a replica. You have the quick start guide for the parents, how to start it, how to access your course that we went over on their site, and you have access for 8 handles. A student will need a calculator. This is the calculator that they recommend. That's the one we bought. It was very inexpensive, and I thought that was just perfectly fine for now. If she needs one more fancy later on, then we can review that then. So here, what a day looks like. You watch a video and take notes. This active watching. They should not be passively watching the videos. So you don't want them to not have their student textbook in front of them as they're watching. You want them to have this and any note paper or anything like that you want, because there should be actively watching instead of passive, and be working the problems along with them, because that is what's going to help cement the lesson. So when they're doing their assignments on their own, it's already familiar because they were actually, pen or pencil to paper, right? And that we know how that translates in the brain when they're actually like writing it down. So then they do the assignment right there in the book, located after each of the notes, and then check and correct answers using the solution manual or the solution video. Bam, done, you're ready to move on, right? So, and then again, they want you to complete one complete lesson a day consistently, instead of just going like half C's or things like that. So they have access to the solution grading and the solution videos, which is important, and then talks about the grading and total points earned and things like that. As you can see, I didn't put any grades on that stuff. My daughter got all the problems correct up to this point. I think she's missed maybe one problem, and then, which is very unlike her. I mean, she doesn't like bomb tests or assignments, but it's typical for her to miss like a couple per lesson and then have to revisit. She rarely routinely gets 100, 100, 100. That's more my son. But for her, that's when I really truly saw, and with my own eyes, how much this method and the way that Mr. Dennison teaches is really cements to her, because she consistently, week after week after week after week, you know, she has been maybe like one wrong out of the bunch, like one wrong after a few lessons. So she's really understanding it. She's really being cautious and watching her work and checking her work before she even looks at the solutions to see if she got them correct. And so we're not writing any grades. She knows she got them all right or anything like that. But in high school, I will start, if this was algebra, which she would be getting a high school credit, then I would keep track of her grades. Now in 8th grade, I have no reason to for that. She is taking another high school course in 8th grade, and now keep count of those grades, but for this is not necessary. All right, so every chapter has a review at the end, and then the big hairy algebraic concepts is talked about here. So you have the grade recording sheets, tests. The tests are worth 100 points. Assignments are worth 10 points each. No partial credits for assignment. You know, an assignment is complete if all the problems were attempted using the method and taught in the video, and assignment has been checked and corrected. So that's how they count it. So it really also, this may seem a little rigid to you, but this really is also preparing them for that higher level expectations for high school and beyond. So I love that they have instilling those habits from very early on, and you know, what the point value and things like that, because maybe you have not done that up to this point, but you're going into a stage where you probably are going to have to. I don't think there's very few places that you don't have to keep track of high school grades, but I may be wrong on that. But again, here there's Form A and Form B. If a student scores less than 70% on Form A, then you can restudy and then take Form B. So don't give them the task back to back, right? So you want them to restudy, look at their problems and things like that. Maybe even watch the video again of what the area that they missed, and then you give them another opportunity by giving them Form B of the test. You know, guys, for how to grade the chapter tests are found in the test solution. The average grade, how you would pick that up, that's also discussed. So there's a lot of parental instructions for you, even though this course is meant to be very independent. There is a lot of you know, information for you, especially because families that are looking into this program are typically high school families or those that are in late middle school. So they know that they're keeping track of grades, they're keeping all that stuff, but how do I do that? They have it all out for you. And remember, there's a guide of planning for math for different types of student. If you want your student to start, you know, pre-algebra in 9th grade. That's, you know, a little less typical in my opinion, but it may be necessary for some families, and that's totally fine. So that it gives you a course of a map of how that would work out, and it gives you a guide for that. So I think those are great little tool. I already had all that mapped out, so I didn't really need it, but I did go ahead and download it for the benefit of knowing about another tool that I can talk to you guys about. Again, this is also a pacing guide that you have here. So again, you have that student text. The reason I started with this, just so you can see the work first, and then we could get into like the nitty-gritty teacher support. And then this is a pacing guide, suggested days for unit 10 to 11 days. And like I said, chapter 1 took us 2 weeks to do, and you go from there. So and you can have all this here. So as you're planning, you can map this out. For me, math, I plan a little bit different because I'm gauging it on her or my son. And maybe they hit a point where there's something they're hitting a wall on, and I want to not, you know, close myself in with a rigid plan. So I may just put at the beginning of the week, I will put that we are in lesson 2.9 or something like that. So, and then that's the only place I would put the number of lesson. And then if it takes us 2 days, I'm not saying it will, but then that way I can track and back plan where we're at. So at the end of the week, it may be that we went through everything we need to, or maybe that we went slower, maybe we went faster. All right, so here is the pacing guide. Then you have your test booklet. So I'm just gonna open here. So chapter 9, so this is Form A, so this is what you would give. And on their student textbook is gonna prompt them when it's time to take a test. So even if you have not been keeping up with where they're at, or you're a little bit behind on checking in with them, you will, your child will be prompted to say, oh, I need my test, or whatever. And then you can look at, especially make sure you look at their practice tests and that they really understood what they were doing. So here it will say, again, you may use a calculator for this section. And then this is like the Form A for this chapter. So all this is 20 questions, I believe they mostly are. Yeah, 20 questions is their test. Now, let's say they bombed it. They restudied. Here's another opportunity for another test. We haven't needed to do that. But it's there if you need some, let me just show, pre-algebra test solutions. So your test solutions are not in their student textbook. They're gonna be in your teacher one. So they do not have access to the test solutions, okay? So that here is talking about each problem is worth 4 points, and then it works it out. So let's say you haven't a clue because you don't remember how to do any of this. It's all like worked out. I love the fact that it's also written out in normal handwriting. It's just in handwriting. I don't know why that touch, I don't know. It just translates to my ADHD brain really well that I am seeing it in like real life form of how it's actually worked out and not like a computer generated font. It's actually fully worked out with handwriting. I don't know why, but my neurodiverse brain loves that. Don't ask me why. So anyway, so you have the solutions right on here for both forms if you need it. And then there's a grading scale and suggestions again for the next chapter. And you see that all on there. All right. And I know somebody's going to ask, this is my well-planned day portfolio binder. I'm going to be switching it out to the other color that I just got. This is life to me. It's the best tool I have for all my PDF curricula resources or additional things, or this. And this came 3-hole punch, so you can put it in a binder if you like. I put it in my Well Planned Day portfolio. I do have a discount code for the portfolio, not the math. Sorry, not the math. I don't even know that I exist. All right, so then here is the solution manual. So you have the same table of contents on here, and you have the solution. So here with the assignment, you look up whatever you need to look up. And this booklet stays with my daughter because she checks her own work. If there's anything that she gets stuck with, then she comes to me. Again, that's really not happened to this point. I expect that as it gets deeper in that she will. But because there were so many lessons that we've already done, I felt comfortable giving a review, which I will update as we get deep into it, like more deeper into it. All right, but as you can see, we already know the format, how it's working out and everything else, and how she understands it. And to her, he just makes perfect sense. The solutions manual, the parent guide and test booklet, and the gigantic student textbook, which is, I think it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It works beautifully. And now I am like this lady right here, and I will scream to the rooftop when anybody tells me they are struggling with math. Take a look at Denison Algebra. I love that positive mindset thing that he starts with. I think it's so beneficial and so great. That he starts with like the mental health part of how tragic math can be for a lot of people. So if this is your kiddo, check it out. Again, this is the pre-algebra. They have the algebra, high school algebra courses. They have the geometry there. This is the standard. We're using the standard, which is gonna stick us with the same material as any other program, just taught in a pace that is manageable, and they're still going to learn everything that everybody else learns. They're just going to learn it a little bit differently, and with that conscious mind of repetition and the hands-on and stuff, and the way that it is presented I just love the way he teaches, and I don't foresee walking away from Dennison any of the years, because this to me was like finding gold. And you guys know how I feel about math. Yes, I took advanced mathematics my entire school career. I don't know how that happened. I really don't, because I'm not a math person. Or maybe those brain cells just flew away. Anywho, if you have any questions, drop them down below. Description box is going to have the link to find the sample pages for their courses, and also that free math planning thing that they have. I'll put that link down below as well, so you can download it and take a look at that. Drop the questions. I'll see you guys next time.
On my hours differently, 'cause it's never too late to live what you say, and I know